Hey, how's it going? And welcome to another video. Alright, so we are getting mighty close to Shin Megami Tensei V. Just a couple more weeks, fellas. But I figured now that the next numbered entry in the series is coming up, it'd be fun to take a look back at some of the previous game's box arts. Since whenever you think of a given game, like, the box art is usually one of the first visuals that pops into your mind. And even though I would definitely say that now they're not quite as important as they used to be, back when a lot of these games came out, the box was more or less what people had to go off of when they were deciding to buy the game or not. Obviously, now that the internet is so ubiquitous, like, everybody knows pretty much everything about any game before it comes out. But back in the day, usually all that you had to go off of was like, maybe some video game magazines that were talking about a particular game and like going to the store and seeing the box. So it's kind of interesting to see how Megami Tensei kind of marketed itself through these boxes. Plus there's a lot of different like regional variations for these box arts. I'm pretty much just going to be taking a tour through a couple of the boxes that I find the most interesting. I've got all the mainline numbered entries in here, and I threw a couple of other ones in here for good measure. So yeah, should be fun. Let's check them out. Alright, so starting off with the classic Super Famicom game Shin Megami Tensei. And I definitely say that if I had to pick which box art was the most influential when it comes to the series, I would definitely go with this one. This general image of the demons with their glowing eyes is a visual that's been used pretty frequently throughout the series. Just a couple examples off the top of my head, like it appears in Nocturne, it appears in Devil Survivor, it appeared in the very first trailer for SMT V. It's a really iconic visual that I think kind of captures the series as a whole. And I also really like how it makes really good use of the Super Famicom games, like the design of their boxes. The Super Famicom boxes were pretty thin and long, and I think this art makes excellent use of that with the verticality of the demons. And I think the effect kind of works no matter which direction you look at it from. For example, if you start with the SMT logo and slowly make your way down, you get to see the big demons like Hallel, Odin, until you slowly make your way down to some of the smaller boys until you eventually reach the very tiny humans. But it also kind of works in reverse. You can look at these tiny little humans and then slowly drift your eye up looking at these bigger and bigger demons. And I think it also works really well in showing just the incredible power of the demons in comparison to these little humans. It makes you kind of stop and think like, oh shit, that's the opposition? But it kind of works in reverse too. Rather than sitting there thinking, oh man, look at those big scary demons, you can kind of think like, oh man, look at those little humans. Those guys are the ones really running the show. So yeah, I think this one is really excellent. It makes really good use of the design of the Super Famicom boxes. The art itself is beautiful. I think it really does a good job just capturing the essence of Shin Megami Tensei and what it's all about. And I think it also works really well in depicting humanity as small but very powerful. Next up we have the box art for Shin Megami Tensei II, which pretty much follows in the footsteps of the previous one. Whereas SMT I showed a huge wall of demons, SMT II instead shifts the focus to the 4 archangels. And whereas the box art for SMT I was pretty much entirely dark, there's a big, bright, shining light right in the middle of this one. There's similar imagery of the humans being front and center, but the angle is slightly different. And even though I think this one does a pretty good job at contrasting the other one, I think I definitely prefer SMT I's box art overall. The angels are really cool, don't get me wrong, but the image of the demons is just so mesmerizing and so memorable. So yeah, I think I gotta give it up to the forces of chaos for this one. Next up, we have the box art for Shin Megami Tensei If, which definitely stands out among the crowd. I can't really think of too many other games where the box art is just a close-up of a school uniform. In the background, you can see a Karukosaka High School uniform, as well as the school's badge. But for whatever reason, I don't know what it is, I really like this box art. I think it's the fact that it's honestly kind of hard to gauge basically anything from looking at it. Like with the previous two, you can definitely tell, okay, there's some kind of demons and angels going on. But with this one, it definitely requires a bit more investigation, which I think is kind of cool. Like I can kind of see myself being in Japan in the 90s, not really being quite sure what this is, and being drawn in by the gigantic If. Next, we're going to be taking a look at some of the box arts for Devil Summoner Soul Hackers. Starting with the PS1 release, this is another one that's pretty subtle. The majority of the box is taken up by like this black void alongside the Soul Hackers logo, but slightly off center you can see the Spookies. Yeah man, the whole gang is here. but I like the fact that it kind of subtly alludes to the fact that this is a little bit more of a character-driven Megami Tensei game. It's not quite as in-your-face about it like some of the other games later on. There's just enough on the box to kind of make you check twice, which I think is a little bit more effective than just having the logo. Next up is the Sega Saturn version, which opts to swap out the spookies with the comp gun that you get. By the way, the comp gun that you use in Soul Hackers is like the coolest shit ever. Just man, what a 90s thing. This like revolver that shoots out a computer screen that lets you summon demons. Just absolutely splendid. But I think it's kind of a perfect blend of subtle and eye-catching. If you were at a game store in the 90s, you would probably look at this box and think, what is up with that weird gun? But yeah, which one do you guys like more? Soul Hackers box with the spookies or Soul Hackers box with the gun? Next, we have the absolutely metal box art from Majin Tensei II, Spiral Nemesis. In the distance, we can see the city, which is being very, very, very well illuminated. I assume a fucking nuke just went off, but when you turn your attention to the foreground, that's when the image becomes really cool. You can see the protagonist atop this hardcore mass of trash and bones and demons. What's this one demon doing with all his ass? Just really fighting for his life out here. Good luck, champ. But yeah, I really, really like this one a lot. Just this death pile that makes up the foreground is so cool. And the cityscape in the background makes for a really nice contrast. But goddamn, this image is really orange. Now for our last Super Famicom game, we actually have the box for Kyuuyaku Megami Tensei. Dude, look at how metal this picture of Lucifer is. On one half, you can see his angelic form. Not really sure what the bird is all about. I don't remember Lucifer ever having a bird, but whatever, birds are cool.
You guys are watching Bird Up.
And then on the other half, you can see his demonic form. Like, look at this dude. He's got snakes coming out of his arm. Look at that sword. It's so edgy. It's great. But yeah, I really, really like this one a lot. Like, besides it being the kind of thing that like a 15-year-old boy would find to be the coolest shit ever, I think it does a really good job displaying the kind of dichotomy between law and chaos, and also does a really good job showing two sides of Lucifer. You get to see him both as an angel and as a devil, and if you happen to see this at a game store back in the day, you would have been like, whoa, hold up, what is this? If you've made it this far into the video, then perhaps I can interest you in becoming a channel member. By becoming a channel member, you get to join the member server and associate with other, like-minded individuals. It's gonna be the place to be if you want to talk to people about Shin Megami Tensei V, or if you're looking for somebody to play Final Fantasy XIV Endwalker with, and we do all kinds of fun server events, like we watch movies and shows sometimes. You get to maybe show up on a stream sometime, we do exclusive community events over there. To join, all you have to do is become a channel member, link in the description. Then on Discord, make sure that your YouTube and Discord are linked up through connections, and then you can join through connections. Look for the little Fither chime. Anyway, shilling time is over, back to the video. Alright, so next up we have a pretty big boy, Shin Megami Tensei Nocturne. And I think Nocturne is especially interesting because it was the first mainline game that we ever got in the West. For its original run in Japan, they went with this really, really striking and quite beautiful image of the Demi-Fiend covered in blue. And I think this one especially stands in contrast to the previous two mainline games, you know, Shin Megami Tensei I and then 2. Since rather than the focus being on either the demons or the angels and humanity, the focus is placed squarely on the Demi-Fiend, which I would say is a pretty good choice considering I think the Demi-Fiend has one of the more unique and recognizable JRPG character designs. But yeah, I think this one is really great. It's very mysterious, the Demi-Fiend is super eye-catching. The blue color really contrasts the red of the Shin Megami Tensei III Nocturne text. Now, I say this box is interesting when it comes to the Western release because I could imagine there was probably a decent bit of debate about if they should have changed the box or not, considering this was more or less their first attempt at really selling the series over here. Like, in the past we had gotten Persona 1 dubbed as Revelations Persona, but this was the first game specifically branded as Shin Megami Tensei. But I think they definitely made the right call in keeping the overall box more or less the same, just changing the color to a more striking red. But they would reuse this same basic box another 2 times, once again for the Nocturne Chronicle Edition, this time featuring a silver color, and the next time would be for the HD remaster, which instead goes for PP yellow. They're all functionally more or less the same, so it really just depends on which color you like the most. Personally, I think I like the blue box the most, but that's just me. So Nocturne managed to have more or less the same box throughout its various releases in Japan and in the United States. And then Europe decided that it would instead be called Shin Megami Tensei Lucifer's Call and be given this box. You have absolutely 100% seen the featuring Dante from the Devil May Cry series button, but I'd imagine a lot of people, they don't actually know where it's from. And yeah, it comes from this, good old Shin Megami Tensei Lucifer's Call. I wouldn't say it's bad necessarily, it's just a very, graphic design is my passion kind of box. Dante is kind of just slapped on there for marketing reasons. So yeah, this one, I wouldn't say it's terrible, but the original Nocturne box is better. Moving on to the Digital Devil Saga duology. For the Japanese box, they decided to go with Surf and his demonic form in Danganronpa poses, which I think works pretty fine. Like, it gets the point across that there's a humanoid form and then a demon form. DDS2 went with basically the same image, just with Sarah instead. And this same visual is actually reused quite a bit in various print media. For example, here's a strategy guide featuring Heat, here's a strategy guide featuring Gale, and here's one with Cielo. So yeah, it's cool to see that basically the same concept is reused multiple times. Like, I think it's kind of cool that, you know, just Cielo is on one strategy guide, just Gale is on another. So I think they definitely made pretty good use of the character's individual artwork. Next up, we have the North American release for Digital Devil Saga, and I think I pretty immediately like this one more than the equivalent Japan had. The Japanese one is definitely cool, but I think this one is a lot more dynamic and kind of interesting. You can see Surf is actually mid-transformation here, and then Varna looks awesome with his big claws coming out. Next is the box art for Digital Devil Saga 2, which is a really cool picture. I love the verticality of it. Like, it starts off at the very bottom with the pile of demons. Then you see the main cast in their transformed states just covered in blood. Then you see the buildings just looming over them. Then at the very top, you see the sun, which is an extremely important part of Digital Devil Saga 2's story. I think this one is really good. I think it does a great job just encapsulating what Digital Devil Saga is all about. It's a really great vertical slice of the entire game. Like, you get to see all the characters in their demonic states, a lot of dead demons. It does a really good job showing off the brutality of the games. The last DDS2 box is pretty similar to the DDS1 box in North America. It shows Sarah transforming into her demonic state. Looks really cool, and I think the two especially look really good side by side. DDS1 and 2 are basically two halves of one whole, so I think it's only appropriate that the two boxes, when put together, form a really cool visual. Moving on to some Devil Survivor, I think the boxes for Devil Survivor 1 and 2 are both fine. They're pretty much just there to showcase the characters. Not really anything too special, but I really like the box for Overclocked. Just the image of the protagonist with his cape flowing out, like the silhouettes of the various characters coming out of it, along with the visual of Tokyo, I think it looks really cool. So yeah, this one's definitely a winner for me. Alright, we're on the home stretch now, Shin Megami Tensei IV. So I think out of any of the mainline game boxes, this one probably does the best job at just showing the conflict between chaos and law. Whereas SMT 1 focused on the demons, then 2 focused on the angels, and 3 was pretty much the Demi-Fiend show. This one pretty much has a combination of all of them. Flynn is of course front and center, then to the left you can see Walter and the forces of chaos. On the right you can see Jonathan and the angels. And overlapping both sides is basically just rubble and destruction, which kind of shows that no matter which side you pick, shit's fucked. There's actually an expanded version of this artwork where at the very top you can see Burroughs looking fucking evil. And this is a visual that's a little bit harder to make out in the actual box, but you can clearly see two massive hands grabbing at Walter and Jonathan. But yeah, I think this one is really great. Like I said, it does a really good job showing the conflict between law and chaos. Man, y'all ever notice how Jonathan looks really submissive and breedable? Poor little law boy. Next, we have the box for Shin Megami Tensei IV Apocalypse, which is very green. First of all, Nanshi looks really cool. I really dig the determined look, that glow in his eye. Off to the left, you can see Flynn facing back, which more or less implies that Flynn is kind of taking a backseat in this one. He's obviously still a major character, but this time around, Nanashi is the one in charge. In the bottom, you can see my homeboys in the Divine Powers. And then in the top, you can see my man Dagda, but I think he's kind of hard to make out. In the full version of this art, he's much easier to see, but I've always found he's a little bit too far up in the corner for my liking. So I think this one is fine. It definitely has a much more kind of slapdash feeling compared to the SMT IV box. But I don't know, maybe that works in its own way. Maybe it's intentional, considering SMT IV Apocalypse is a lot more out there compared to SMT IV, so who knows, maybe that was the master plan all along. Finally, we arrive at the box for Shin Megami Tensei V. And I think this is a really, really good one, mostly owing to the fact that I think every entity on this box has an awesome design. Nahobino, my beloved, is of course front and center, strutting his amazing flowing hair. He's got his beam sword coming out. The pose is pretty dynamic. He looks really good. But he's also surrounded by all the new demons from the game, like Bethel is there. It looks really good. Man, I can't wait to get the steelbook for this game. But yeah, that just about concludes our tour. Like, I know there are a lot of omissions, but this is also a video game series that's been going for like, what, 35 years just about? And at some point I'll definitely be doing a video taking a look at some of the Persona box arts, since Lord knows Persona has quite a lot of them. But yeah, that has been the video. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time.